I'm going to make this video and I'm going to try my best to be as considerate as I possibly can to the prevailing evidence and all of the things surrounding it. But if you read something like this, it says Nintendo says it could break Switch systems if users bypass, modify, decrypt, defeat, tamper with their games in updated agreement. And then you click the article and you notice that the author juxtaposes the old agreement, which talks about this particular thing, which actually tells you that you're not allowed to do any of these things, which most gamers look and say, but it's our device. But now they've also expanded it to say that you acknowledge that if you fail to comply with foregoing restrictions, Nintendo may render the Nintendo account services and or the applicable Nintendo device permanently unusable in whole or in part. This is the problem that I think a lot of people on the hardware advocacy side have been talking about for a while, where you buy a hardware device and that device is not 100% yours. These devices, low-end PCs, masking as what they call consoles, because now almost all of them are benefiting from the technology that PC innovation is bringing, and they sell you a version of this technology that you cannot claim to be yours, which is insane. And so, I will not presume to tell you what you should do with your money. However, I just wanted to go ahead and tell you that this is why people move to PC and would rather play with a potato than play with some overblown boxed PC with a branded name on it. This is one of the reasons you're seeing people make their moves to PC. Why shall I give you money for a product and then have to sign an agreement on how I use the product for my own personal use? This highly litigious company constantly bothering everybody. Those kids that made the Power World game, they have not known peace since they launched the game because of this company. And this company continues to get away with all this nonsense and get support. People close their ears to stuff like this. The market is ripe for a secondary disruption. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, this company that has gotten away with all this stuff, they're not going to get away with it much longer. Why? Because everyone now realizes that gamers want one thing. They don't want to be knifed. They don't want to be shortchanged. A gamer doesn't want to buy a video game and realize that the game is crap. A gamer doesn't want to buy a hardware piece and realize that their freedom is limited on how they use something that they have purchased from you, made you profit on the long term, and then you can then turn around and then go ahead and mess that device up because of what? This is why before you go to PC, you have to have a renegade mindset. I usually tell a lot of people, man, if the PC ecosystem sounds a little too strange for you, you got to understand you have to have had it up to somewhere. And then you look at these console manufacturers and say, go sit down somewhere. Your proposition is just not appealing to me. Let me show you something very interesting. Amazon. They looked at Steam one time and they said, you know what? Let's see if we can actually topple Steam in the PC space. They looked at Steam. They were like, yeah. When people say Steam, Valve making hardware, Valve making a console is not going to do well, I laugh. Because you simply just don't realize that people get fed up and tired after a while. In fact, one of the funniest things is seeing people get fed up and tired of PlayStation Plus in the face of Xbox's Game Pass. And when you read more of the comments, there are about 600 plus. Actually, this number has gone up. When you read more of the comments, you see people saying, you know, that their expectations are changing. Steam was at one point looked at by Amazon and they thought they could compete with Steam. They didn't think they could compete. They wanted to overthrow. This is the original LinkedIn article. They tried to disrupt the game platform Steam. This was Ethan Evans, who is a retired Amazon vice president. At the time, he was the VP of Prime Gaming. He said the 15-year-long attempt to challenge Steam started before I was VP of Prime Gaming, but we never cracked the code, not under my leadership nor anyone else's. The first way we tried to enter the online gaming store market was through acquisition. We acquired Reflex Entertainment, small PC game store, tried to scale it, didn't work. Then we bought Twitch, created our game store, assuming that people were using Twitch so they were going to buy. Wrong. We built Luna, which was a gaming streaming service for high-end PCs. Around the same time, Google tried the same thing, Stadia. Neither gained significant traction. The whole time, Steam dominated despite being a relatively small company compared to Amazon and Google. The mistake was that we underestimated what made consumers use Steam. Ladies and gentlemen, what makes consumers use Steam Ethan Evans got it wrong. He said it's a store, a social network, a library, a trophy case all in one, and it worked well. His comments eventually started telling him, brethren, it is not about it being some kind of a store or social media or whatever it is. It is simply because Steam puts its users before profits and is not about some social network or library or trophy. Nintendo needs to learn, and it's going to be taught in this market. They're launching in June. There's going to be an Xbox showcase in June. In that Xbox showcase, what's going to happen is value proposition is going to be on display. Xbox is just one means of the market to disrupt everything. Steam has already been a disruptor for a long time, sucking gamers in, en masse. Xbox is the second disruptor. We need one more that's going to break the hegemony of this stronghold or stranglehold that these console makers have on the market. Xbox has seen that thing is starting to fissure. They've jumped quickly to the other side. And right now, I think Nintendo is ripe for a disruption. And that disruption is going to come as a matter of value. Right now in the market, based on the metrics, based on some of the hardware components that leaked to a Chinese eBay-like website, this Steam Deck is not as powerful as the Series S. And Microsoft, having raised the prices, which I think is trash, is still having a cheaper SKU than this particular system. Tell me about the games all you want, but man, at the end of the day, they all cost money. It's not like Nintendo is giving them for free when you buy the console. Xbox is going to pretty much go ahead and sing a different song as disruptor number 2. So in the comment section, when they were telling this ex-VP, they were telling him, bro, this whole talk about building whatever, you got to understand. This guy said, he's an IT guy, said, I can't help but wonder if you actually play video games regularly and have tried buying games on Steam versus doing that on your own platform. Maybe for number one attempt can already tell you the huge difference. Now, this guy came back and said, my tone sounded harsh, but the shopping experience on Steam has been smooth and steady since the last decade ago. He probably was thinking to himself, crap. I live here on LinkedIn with my, employers, whatever. For reference, Gabe Newell, the founder, plays games regularly, and he said he's played Dota 2 over 800 hours and loved it in 2011 during an interview by PC Gamer. That was 13 years ago. Right? At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, they want me to sign in. Get the heck out of here. I'm not signing in. At the end of the day, the big difference here is Steam acts as a meat shield to basically put a stopgap between you and these publishers. Because everybody is gunning out for a way to scarf the consumer. I don't know what it is, but a lot of these companies, they want to protect themselves first. Not saying Steam's not going to protect itself first if he needed to a Valve. To be more accurate. But their business model is based on them actually having a customer first policy. Hence, the customer knows and understands that if they do not consider me as the more critical and more important piece of this business, they fail. So the consumer is actually much more comfortable doing business on their platform. That's literally why they could not topple the company. Because Amazon cannot get me an item of the nature that I ordered it. In the last few orders that I've put on Amazon, I've gotten used items rather than brand new items that I ordered. And I know where to go order the, Amazon resale. They used to be called Amazon Warehouse. I used to be on that thing all the time. I bought a lot of, I'm not always wanting to buy new stuff. I don't care if it's useful for me, be it used, be it, whatever it is, I'll buy it. But I'll order a new item. These guys will send me like something that I'm like, yo, this is actually being used. Why are you sending it to me? No one can really trust you guys on Amazon as much as they can trust Valve. That's why you couldn't beat them. Good Old Games, DRM-free games. They're pushing. Silent Hill 2 just dropped on Good Old Games today. Did you guys see that? More and more companies are now starting to realize that we can make more money when consumers think or feel or recognize that they can be comfortable with us in our business. Now, it's still a little high, but everyone that has probably bought it that's interested in buying it will probably want to come back and buy it on a sale. Some will double dip. Why? Because you've created a customer-friendly version of the game, which is DRM-free. Look at it. It's going to say it on the bottom, DRM-free, no Activision online connection required to play. That's what consumers want. That is exactly what consumers want. Valve has another step to improve. They need to give these publishers a small discount if they would make their games DRM-free on their platform. I think that's where Valve's opportunity to grow is. As much as I enjoy, the Steam platform and all, This is where they can go. And as for Nintendo, I await your learning session. The market's gonna not stand for this stuff. Trust me, there are only so many people and there's only so much that can be done. Haven't seen PlayStation Plus users break at the sight of Game Pass and just look and say, come on, man, what are we doing here? Nintendo fans are gonna base they're next. They're next. They're about to see some real interesting changes in the market. And I think one more disruptor that we need is the ubiquitous nature of games where everything can be played almost everywhere. At that point, everything renders Nintendo a dinosaur. Pretty much. In that metaphorical sense. Thanks for watching. Peace out.